Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of CJ's Coins and Crafts. This is going to be just a short video on the penny box that I was able to go through this past week. The list is actually really kind of short. I only got 4 Canadians, 1963, 1979, and 2 1987s. Then at 50s, 53 Denver, 2 of those, 54 Denver, 56 Denver, 57, 1 Philadelphia, 1 Denver, 58 Denver, and a 59 Denver. I didn't get any 40s, any 30s, anything in the teens, anything else. So relatively, this would be not really I guess kind of a skunk box, but really not really, because of the other things that I also found in this box, and we will go through this right now. But as far as like the age of the coins and stuff like that I normally go through, I didn't have any of that this time. But the cool stuff is the other things that I found, and we will get to that right now. So the first one is this 1960. This is a 1960D. This is Denver. And then as my camera starts to focus, you'll see the die chip right on the 9 right there. So it filled up almost the entire 9. So I'm gonna put this under scope to give us a better view of it. And I'm gonna put this right here so you guys can see. So you can see that the die chip is almost completely filled up the 9 there. So this is just something that I happen to see just because it looked different. And then when you look at it like this, then it clearly shows what's going on with it. So that's kind of a cool one. The next one is a 1965. This is a 1965 Philadelphia. And the cool thing that I found on this one is this die crack right here. So the die crack goes from Lincoln's forehead, which you can see right here, and it goes all the way up to the rim right here. So it goes all the way from his forehead all the way up to the rim right here. So I thought that was really cool, because I don't normally see die cracks that sit up that high, or that are generally in this area. I normally see die cracks on the reverse on the building, but I almost never see die cracks on the front of coins. So that is a 1965. Then this is a, let me flip it over, 1972 Denver. And this one, oh yeah, right there. So this one I noticed right away because there's a big die chip right here on the base on the reverse. So you can see that it started chipping away right back here, but here's a big chunk that got chipped out of the die. So that is a 1972 Denver. Almost, yeah. The next one is going to be a 1982 Philly. This is going to be a large date. Let's see if I remember where it's at. Yeah, right there. So it goes from the top of the memorial right here, and it goes straight all the way up through the F and of, and all the way to the rim. So these are pretty significant die cracks to show up, because normally your die cracks are going to be small. They're going to be on like the corners where there's usually die cracks down here, and on the other corners of the building, just because that's where the design is kind of weaker towards the rim. But to have die crack like right in the middle of the coin is kind of cool. So that's a good one, and that is a 1982 large date. Next one is going to be a 1982 small date, and this one is exactly what I was just talking about. That this die crack will be on that corner. So this one I thought was kind of interesting because this is generally where I see die cracks on 82s and 83s, especially. But this one is almost like a bigger crack, or like the die started to break, or it started off with a crack and then it chipped out. It's a kind of an interesting design on that corner right there. So we look at the other corners and see if there's, looks like there's some, yeah, there is. There's some cracking right here, and then you can see the crack as it hits the rim on the other side of the eye, which is normally where I see die cracks on these coins. And then the other place that you'll see them is generally right up in here. So this might be just a later really worn die that started to fracture, but hasn't completely broke yet. So that's a good one. And okay, so there's that one. And then okay, so the next three coins that I wanted to go through are really just kind of interesting varieties. This is a 1959. And the first thing I noticed is this piece right in here on the back side of the D. So anything that looks like that, the first thing that I'm thinking of is a repunchment mark, because generally that's what it is that it's rotated or it's dropped down a little bit. So I'm gonna minimize this for a second. And this was the one that I was originally thinking that it was going to be. This is on doubleddie.com. This is Wexler's guide. But the thing is that it does not have this other section down here. So it could be either broken or damaged punch, and that's what's given it this extra piece. Like in the 1979 Denvers, they were using a broken punch that made it look like that it was an RPM, but is really not. Or it could just be the first punch is this section and this piece on the bottom, and then they repunched it a little bit higher, and it just kind of melded all together there. So I thought that was kind of an interesting one. I don't know if this is going to end up being an RPM. I'm going to have to look at it in a couple different ways. But I mean, it really looks like something like this, where you've got the split serifs on the top, which would normally indicate a repunchment mark. So let's take a look at some other ones. So this next one is going to be a 2002 Denver. Yes, 2002 Denver. And I always look at the backs of the 2002 or anything from 1998 to 2000 because I'm looking for some specific indicators. So the one thing that I want to point out, that when I first saw this, I'm going to get my pointing stick of science, is going to be these edges right here. So on the E, on the P, on the L, and then you'll see it over here on like the M, the inside of the R. I remember some things, and the one that I was looking at was this one right here. So this is also on doubleddie.com, Wexler's guide, and this is a 2002 Denver WDDR 002, and so this is consistent with the little space on the E, on the inside of the P right here. The L shows up on the edge. So as we scroll through some of this, like, I don't know if you guys can see that. I'll drag it over so you can see it here. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. Kind of. But there's faint lines right here on the U, on the M, on the inside of the M, which are consistent with the lines that I have on the U, on the M, and on the M. So I've checked out the some of the die markers that are listed, and they do match up. So this is going to be a 2002 Denver Wexler's double die reverse number 002. So that's pretty cool. pretty cool to find a double die like that. Just something minor, and it's just because I always I always look at the back of the coins. So for my last one is this one right here, and this one is kind of interesting because there's no FG. This is a 1988, and there should be an FG right here somewhere in this space. And I tried like changing the lighting, changing the different ways to look at it. So we'll flip it around because sometimes if the lighting's different, you can usually see some faint marks, but I can't see anything there. So I thought this was really kind of interesting because I know that there is a on the 1972 Kennedy half dollars, there is also a no FG variety, and it all has to do with over polishing of the dies that were used. That the over polishing removed part of the designs, and therefore is technically a mint error. So I'm gonna keep looking at this one. That I thought is really interesting that it does not have any kind of designer initials right there, right where it should be, because on the Lincoln Cents, I almost said Kennedy, on the Lincoln Cents, there should be an FG right here. And the reason why I was looking at this particular one is actually one that Chris Rhodes made a reference to, where on the 1988s, both Philly and Denver, you can find varieties, rare varieties that carry the reverse of the 1989. So, and the difference between these two is the reverse design version 5 and the reverse design version 6. So on the 1988s, they are all supposed to have the version 5. Then on the 1989s, they started using version 6. So it just has to do with the way that the designer initials look and are located in this section right here. The G on the 88 on the version 6 will be very straight. It'll just have a straight curve down. On the 89s on the version 6, the vertical bar on the G will actually extend further down than the bottom curve, and it will have a little serif on the top of that goes that goes perpendicular to that. So you guys can check that out, RDV 05 and RDV 06. So great finds on this box. I didn't really get a lot of old stuff, but the die cracks, die chips, and other varieties, double dies, definitely made up for this box. So until next time, I will see you guys on the next box.